11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Too long. All right, welcome everybody. I'll do a quick commercial for Gizzard, who's quirking us right now. Yeah, that's true. He's quirking us right now.
This is Earl Benson, reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory, Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.
And then the puppy would like me to also put a plug in here for our store. You're a capitalist. You like to support stuff that's focused on the Second Amendment. Buy stuff from our store.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
And welcome, everybody. We're here with our puppy co-host, and we're about to start the conversation here about this weekly wrap-up, 2A wrap-up. So bring up on the screen all the puppies being gross. Hey. Why do you gotta wait until we're live to do this stuff? Don't do this stuff. Hey. He's gonna just keep doing this stuff. All right, so thanks everybody for joining us. This is a live conversation after all. We do this on Friday nights live, midnight Eastern. We are encouraged to be part of the show. This is the internet. It's not the old-fashioned distribution of programming. This is the live, interactive technology that we have at our disposal here. So take advantage of that. Be part of the show. If you're listening to this as a podcast in the future, it's a little bit tougher to be part of it live, but you can be part of the show just simply with a bit of a time shift. And you can leave us a comment or a question or something like that, some kind of feedback at the platforms you might be listening to this on. And we appreciate that. But you can always come over here to YouTube or to one of our other platforms and ask us a question there. We pretty much watch all the comments that are coming in, and we value them. So thanks for doing that. We just posted a couple of links for people that are joining us live for our podcast. We have consolidated it over at Podbean. You can still go watch it wherever you want. I guess I could push this over on the screen, huh? You can still go watch it wherever you want, like iTunes or iHeartRadio or Google or Spotify or any of those places. It's just that for our end, on our end of the thing, we push it out from one spot instead of individually, and that gives us access to a lot more data. So we really do appreciate the people that are listening to this podcast, or all of our podcasts, really, but the Friday show in particular. So thanks everybody for joining us. And if you're over on that X, you're allowed to comment as well. I know a lot of people on X don't comment, but please be encouraged to. It's like I say, an interactive internet here. All right, so we're sharing the screen with our Substack, which is essentially our blog, one of our blogs. We post the same information out in the description of the video that you're watching on YouTube. It's also over on our Patreon blog. And that's the goal. We take all this information and kind of make notes throughout the week. And the stuff I watch and the stuff that's important, that's related to what our Second Amendment protects. Puppy has now gone to sleep. He could care less about the show right now. So this is about what their Second Amendment protects, not so much necessarily about the grip angles and new things that are being developed or whatever came out at the last industry show. Plenty of people do that. We're focused on normalizing guns, end in the conversation, and I shouldn't say a conversation, end in the endless debate, the game, the back and forth games that are played. So let's normalize guns, let's create awareness. So what we're trying to do on this show is focus on those projects that are doing that. We do look at some gun stuff and we look at some other things, so let's take a look at that stuff. But our goal is to do this weekly so that we're creating an archive and giving people one place kind of filtered that you can get this information. And every once in a while, we hope to be able to go back ourselves and use this information. But at this point, we're still just creating the information. So some of the sections or portions of the show tonight are going to be the 2A news of the week, the Second Amendment focused stuff, right? What our Second Amendment protects. There's a bit of that this week. Then we do have some gun related stuff, just general gun stuff that's more interesting than some of the other gun stuff that's out there maybe. Then we're going to talk about a couple of radio shows that we listen to, as well as we have some calendar events we can chat about depending on how the time goes tonight. And then we follow quite a few military interview shows, and I like to bring those up, especially when they're good ones. And this week was especially good. Then we'll talk about the stuff that we did this week. This was Every Second Matters this week and a couple other things that we do. So let's get back up to the top. And normally I'd say hey to the people joining us, but nobody said anything, so there's no way to know who's joining us. Puppy gets all worried. He starts licking. So want to stop the puppy from licking, say hey. All right, so like I said, we push this thing out to a couple of different places, and we appreciate the people that are following or commenting on those places. And we should probably put a section of the show about comments and stuff, or relevant comments or interesting comments or something each week. So the Second Amendment news comes mostly from the NSSF Government Relations newsletter. I'll add to this, but most of this week's came directly out of the newsletter. It comes out in an email on Fridays. Luckily, this week it came out pretty early, so thanks to them, I was able to do it this morning instead of having to do it in the middle of the day. It's always long, and it's always got more stuff in it than I post here, so this is definitely a filtered down version of it. But let's take a look at some of the bullet points. It's gun storage check week. So I guess the idea is we're supposed to check guns that we're storing, I guess. Then we've got, so they do these things incrementally. If I had a panel or something, we might chat about that. Might be an interesting topic for somebody that does have a gun panel or a gun related panel on if these awareness months are able to do anything and what's necessary for them to be useful, right? Like if no one pays attention to them, they can't be useful. But if we do pay attention to them, what's the result? Is that a good thing? Is it a thing that unites people? Even if the thing itself isn't uniquely valuable or, super critical, the practice we get from doing stuff each month, what would be the result there if we were unified, at that level of cooperation? I'll keep going. The what's-his-face's kid is on trial for lying on the 4473, and, quite a bit of focus on that, of course. I'll let others do that commenting. The NSSF puts out NICS background information, NICS background check information, and I'm always going to dispute that when there's more universal background checks until they show me that they can remove the influence of universal background checks, then I don't believe any of the 4473 data. But it is all we have because nobody else is out there tracking this in any way. And I don't know if there would be any way to track it really. So what we have is NICS data, and that's down 7% from last year. It doesn't sound too bad, I guess, but when you look at it, we're essentially almost back down. There was quite a bit of a rise in 2020. And then we're down from that. So the rise has gone away and we're pretty much back down, almost back down, not quite, but almost back down to the numbers of gun sales that we were pre all the bullshit of a few years ago. So while it says it's only down 7%, that's after a few years of down 20-something%. So we're definitely down from any spike that we had. I think I'm going to go ahead and wipe this dog's face while we're talking since nobody's saying anything out there. Bank of America is easing up their policy for refusing to do banking with gun-related companies. And that's kind of interesting news. I don't know if anybody has been talking about that on the mainstream. I don't really follow the mainstream stuff, but I don't think I've seen that out there. So, we definitely hear about it. And there's Woods out there. Welcome. We definitely hear about it when the banks do something to slight us or to kind of prepare to start messing with us or something. And I'm not saying we should ignore their willingness to comply with the craziness that's suggested from the antis, right? So the antis come up with something like some crazy idea. We should track credit card sales with guns. And these banks, unless they're unless they're made aware of the situation, they might say, okay, that sounds like a great idea. Let's just go ahead and do it. So when they get pushback, which they did obviously at Bank of America, because, well, for all different kinds of reasons, I don't have to tell you why we would push back on that or why anybody would push back on such a thing. Then they're aware and now they change their policy. I think we should let them do that. But we should also remember and make sure that maybe at some point we come out and tell them, hey, just remember that time, so we don't have to wait for this to happen again for us to have that interface with them. But yeah, here nor there. Sorry, I'm just kind of wasting time as I'm wiping my dog's face. He's been crying all day. He had a bunch of eye crust in his eyes. He's okay now. So anyway, Bank of America is changing their policy back. Seems like it's happening kind of quietly. Next up is we have a Senate something or another that has 32 co-sponsors. And then we have a House, I forget what these things are called, resolutions or something, with 107 or 164. With 75 co-sponsors. So we have one with 32 co-sponsors in the Senate, one with 75 co-sponsors. All right, you're getting put down, buddy. You're getting put down. That's it. He's getting put down. We're putting his dog down. He's getting put down. Might as well turn that camera off because he just got put down. All right. So not like an overwhelming amount of co-sponsors, but these things have co-sponsors in both the House and the Senate condemning the final rule bullshit that's going down. So, we have the lawsuits, which are nice, I guess, but I like the idea of supporting representatives who we elect to represent us to hold the other branches in check. Right, checks and balances. So I think this, effort could be. It would be neat to see that happen a lot more, or see a lot more attention be focused on these types of things. We'll keep moving. I heard this came up from the NSSF. So this is the industry organization, NSSF, and they don't typically say the sky is falling. Sometimes they'll report stuff that's adjacent, but I don't think I've ever seen them lead the way on anything. I don't know if somebody can tell me if they've heard about this before, but they're saying that the gunpowder supply chain concerns have been voiced by Vista Outdoors, essentially because of all the stuff that's going on in the world. The markets here are going to cause prices to increase. So I'm not sure if I just missed it in the past when they bring up stuff like this, or if this is a unique thing that they're bringing up and we should be paying attention to this. So let me know what you think. But this isn't the first time we've seen this happen. And I'll just put that caveat, I guess, out there that whenever stuff like this happens, you've got people, they're not necessarily waiting in line. They've just been waiting in the shadows because they have a recipe for this. When ammo prices go up, their ammo goes for sale. That's when they come out and they start selling their ammo because they've gone through this cycle so many times. So you're going to get other people who, they're just going to get a lot of people coming to the surface that have been kind of dormant for a while whenever there's ammunition supply issues. So interesting to see that one's, I don't know if it's rising or if it's on the surface or what's up with that, or maybe it's just potential. The Attorney General had sat for questioning for quite a few different things, including, so this is the Attorney General, not the ATF, but the Attorney General. And again, sat at a House, so House of Representatives, checks and balances, Judiciary Committee, focused on the Department of Justice, which is executive branch, and essentially the branch who's in charge of oversight, right, on the other branch. These representatives in this committee are essentially in charge of the Department of Justice, even though the president at the time is the one telling them what to do. Their boss is us, and our representatives tell them what to do. And this committee is that people for us. So it's good to see again that we have something besides a lawsuit, which is the normal checks and balances of government. And I could think that we could use a lot more civics awareness, because this seems like, if this was a lot bigger news for all of us, one, we wouldn't be so upset about the potential of fear of the unknown, and we could all get behind this and amplify and end this shit quicker. But essentially, the Attorney General, not the ATF, but the Attorney General is being held to task, is that the way to say it, on redefining stabilizing braces, redefining frames and receivers, the expansion of engaged in doing business, and the zero policy that ATF has done on the gun shops instead of on criminals. I don't know about the instead of on criminals, but the zero tolerance policy on applied to gun shops is what specifically they asked them about, I guess. So I think this is great, and I'm bringing it up because I'd like to see more of this focused on. Really, it'd be awesome, because then again, they just said we'd be less fearful of the unknown if we know that there's actually stuff happening besides just these phantom lawsuits that we hear about every once in a while in some Instagram post. The FBI director appeared before the Senate Appropriation Committee about fully staffing NICS. So same way, the representatives in the House of Representatives monitor and, I should say, oversee the Department of Justice. They also fund the executive branch and all that. So the FBI came over to the Senate, I guess, and said, we need a bunch of money for doing NICS. And I didn't put the rest of the article in here because I don't agree with it, but there should be no NICS. We shouldn't be worried about fully staffing NICS. We're talking about removing NICS. It's an artificial concern. It would be suggesting that we had to do some kind of background check on drivers to make sure they weren't going to be drunk drivers or reckless drivers or negligent drivers before they could have a driver's license or before they could even own a car. So this is unnecessarily invasive or intrusive to gun owners, and we should be getting rid of NICS. So I'll put these things in here because they're coming up, but it's not because I agree with them. Then we get the gas-operated semi-automatic Firearms Exclusion Act. So they came up with that so they could say Go Safe Act. From what I understand, there's a bunch of skies falling folks out there worrying about this. We either are aware of these things and we cut them down like weeds, or like, the erroneous flower in the garden that we don't want. Oh, this isn't a flower. This is definitely a heinous weed in the garden, not like anything pleasant or useful. This is a heinous weed that's poisonous, and it attracts poisonous vermin, and it also stinks like poop. So we want to get rid of this out of the garden, but you don't want to just ignore it like some folks would, and you definitely don't want to go worship it like other folks would. So let's just get really good at stomping these fucking things out, and that doesn't just mean watch them go away, because they're not going to, it's essentially phantomware, but it what's the word? Shed light on the idiots who would pass these things, because they're just doing this knowing that we're going to ignore it. They're doing this for political points and fundraising. So if we keep allowing them to do it, that's like allowing these weeds to exist that smell like poop and attract poisonous vermin. So let's get rid of these things, and we don't have to make a big deal out of it. We don't have to worship these things every time they happen and then stop everything and all concentrate on it. But we should get really good at just removing them effectively, and we'd be better off. They'll go away, right? They won't come back once they figure out they're not going to profit off of us. Let's see. This just was an interesting fact, I guess. More than 22 million new gun owners lawfully purchased a gun at retail since the 2020 election. Now, I have no idea how they did this, but it said there was 50-something million NICs. So they came up with 22 million being new gun owners somehow. So, I hesitate to agree with their numbers because how are they going to know? Like, seriously? Like, maybe some logarithm ran through the data or something, but nobody verified any of this. But it's an interesting number. It would be more interesting, since that's a 4-year span, to know what every other 4-year span was like. If a normal year is 18 million, that's different than if a normal year is 11 million, right? Or if a normal year is 2 million and it's been 22, that's a huge increase. But if the normal year is 25 million, it's telling us different data. So it's interesting, but it's only a portion of any story. Let's see. And then for some reason, NSSF posted a big thing about fixing NICs. And the only thing I'm going to put in here about that is they've been advocating for that since 2013. And I'll keep saying it. I'm the first one to say I like NSSF as much as I am totally upset at NSSF. They do a lot of interesting things, and they do a lot of wasted time shit, and fixing NICs is stupid. Let's get rid of NICs. So I'd rather, if they put the same amount of time into end NICs as they put into fix NICs, maybe it'd have been gone sometime between the last 11 years. But I'm not here to hate on them. I just think it's a dumb thing to worry about fixing it. Delaware governor signed Bill 271 into law that repealed the decades-old prohibition on hunting waterfowl and other game birds on Sundays. Figure Woods would like that one. I don't know, that seems like a weird thing, but it's good that they moved the Overton window back over. I don't know why they would have prevented hunting on Sunday unless it was a religious thing or a, conservation thing. Like if they were slaughtering all the game birds or something, then taking out a weekend day makes a lot of sense, because that's going to disrupt, the slaughter, let's say. But typically, unless they're not able, typically game and fish departments are able to monitor populations and do, things correct themselves. So to have that be decades old, again, I don't know. Woods is saying we need 3 data points to form a hypothesis or a trend. Yeah, exactly. So, just giving us a data like that is kind of hokey. I don't know. It's close to hokey adjacent. Anyway, so thanks to them for posting this. This was a huge email that I distilled down to these bullet points. By no means is this everything that happened during the week. There's certainly a lot of news of the week that I don't even bother putting in here. Probably could, but I also don't have all the time in the world. So let me see. I'll take a second here to say thanks to our patrons who make projects like this one possible. So we're gun websites, and that's because we have a bunch of websites. And then YouTube came along. We started doing YouTube back in 2009, somewhere around 2011, 2010, actually. They started going live on YouTube because other platforms existed, and YouTube added that functionality. And since that, I want to say it was a Thursday afternoon or something, that the live button existed on my channel. It was one of the first channels to get it. Boom. I've been live almost every single day since then. So we thank our patrons that allow us spend time focused on what our Second Amendment protects. I certainly didn't always do this. I used to just do dumbass gun reviews and shit back when there weren't anything like that on the internet. But now that there's infinitely many of them, I don't feel any compulsion to add to that. So instead, I let other people who dig that crap to do it. And I'll keep focusing on what our Second Amendment protects. So our Patreons allow us to do that. And it's not like I'm independently wealthy. So they're the ones that give me time to devote to this. Otherwise, I spend the rest of my time paying off bills. So I thank them, but I don't have all the time in the world. So if I did, I'd probably get an assistant or something, and we'd get more data in here. But I also only want to ideally run the show for an hour. So if I put everything that happened during the week that even touches 2A, I could be doing an hour just in this segment, right? And then the other half of this show, or the other real point of this show, is to focus on the efforts that's being done by other real people out there, authentic work being done for our Second Amendment, and to share that information each week out to as many places as possible. So I do appreciate our Patreons, and if you'd like to see more of this or see this get bigger again, because it's been bigger in the past for sure, pitch in, be a capitalist, throw some money at us. I'm going to recommend you take $20 and go over to Patreon, throw like 5 of it at us each month, so $5 a month at us, and then take the rest of that 20 and look around Patreon. We support like 30 people over there, so right away $30 or more, probably $50 that comes in on Patreon goes right back out to those 30 people that we support. Those are people we know mostly, but some other projects that are good. Actually, I think one of them fell apart, so I need to go in there and remove that one. But for the most part, it's a bunch of people we know and projects that we support, cheap, like $1. But the goal is to help you find other valid projects that are out there. So look around Patreon, find something that you find interesting or something that you value, and support it. Give it $2, give it $10, give it $5, whatever. Fill up that $20 or spend that $20 on Patreon. Do that for a few months, and let me know after a few months if that, let's say, $100 you invested in different projects out there was worth the time, or I should say worth the money. And I think you'll find, like I do, that it's very interesting being a financial backer of stuff that you value, no matter what it is. It could, hopefully it's some Second Amendment related stuff, but even if it's just your hobby or your interest or your occupation or something, and there's something out there that's grassroots or innovative that you can support financially and be part of a whole bunch of people throwing a little money at them, that adds up. I can tell you, we've done some massively awesome things over the years with a bunch of people throwing in $25, $15, $5 each. That crowdfunding is a super powerful thing. That's why I know Second Amendment stuff can work. Like it definitely can work. Every time you see a comic book raise $1 million, you know that Second Amendment stuff can work. We just haven't figured out the recipe to make it work over here. But anyway, Patreon is part of that. Patreon helps us to keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully you'll find other people that you support over there and enjoy that aspect of capitalism, that ability that we all have to freely, with our own discretion and our own values, shuffle our resources, in this case money, to each other and make things happen without interference of the state. So again, I really appreciate people that use Patreon for that. Patreon's one of the cheapest ways to do it as far as costs and things go. Don't let anybody tell you different. But we'll keep going. So that, like I say, would be a bigger portion of the show if I had more time to work on it. But like I say, I try to keep it an hour, and I do the stuff I care about the most first, and then the other stuff gets added on. Wood says no hunting on certain weekends is what we do here. Is that for conservation then, or is that for something else? I know that we also have seasons and things, pretty much every state, just because the game and fish departments are going to understand, we have 100 people that want to hunt, and it's probably worthwhile to have 13 of them out every weekend. So, let's have seasons so that people get kind of distributed out there, and permits and zones and stuff, so that people aren't all just standing in one field at one time. All right. He said, yeah, for conservation. All right, so we'll talk about the Second Amendment related stuff first. I guess I forgot to put in here Brooke Cheney's Suicide Prevention Saturday, which is a error on my side. I think I watched it last week. I'm trying to remember what I was doing on Saturday. Oh, no, I didn't. I was hanging out with Tony, and then as soon as me and Tony ended that show, I booked out of here. So I didn't see Brooke's show last week, so that's probably why it wasn't in my feed, and I forgot to put it in here. But each week, Brooke Cheney over in Connecticut hosts a short, consistent project called Suicide Prevention Saturday, which champions mental health awareness and having more effective communication or conversations with people on our side, each other, and folks on the other side who hate us or our property, who so often stand on the graves of those who chose suicide, and to shed light on that and to end all the negative sides of that. Brooke puts effort each week into normalizing that conversation. Definitely the most useful and most productive thing that's done on the internet. If you can do anything each week, promote Brooke's show. Like, tell people about it, get people over there. We could be doing all the other stuff is addressing. We need to address the real issues, take the numbers away from the other side, show the others, the people in the middle, not the antis, but the others, that we have concern and we are doing things. We have been doing things. Understanding how to be able to communicate that is priceless. All right, so the thing I did post in here was an interview with Jeff Knox, who was one of the reform candidates at the NRA Board of Directors, who was voted in just recently. And he was interviewed by Alex Uli from Forge of Freedom in Indiana. Good hour-something conversation worth checking out. They break down with hindsight, with already having been to the meetings and the voting and everything. They break down, the real life future, I guess, options for the NRA. It's going to be interesting to watch a bunch of people either try to still hate the NRA now that Wayne is gone, all of his friends are gone, the reform candidates are plugged in. They're probably going to change things around and do everything everybody said they would only support the NRA if. Or is everybody going to jump back on the NRA? Or are we going to see a bunch of people paid off to do something else and hold their ground there and rip everybody apart and shame people from, you're giving your $30 to the wrong company type of bullshit. We'll see. Saint to say in June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I didn't know that. So thanks for that. With Wayne leaving, we're just saying with Wayne leaving, is everyone going to love NRA? I don't know if they have to love NRA, but I think there was a lot of people who thought they could safely just, not do anything by saying, well, because of Wayne. So we'll see if they are, we know they're going to do shit. They don't do shit for whatever. They were just using that as an excuse. But it is interesting to hear because you can follow. There are quite a few people, not a bunch, a handful of people that are following this. A couple of them are following it in spite of the NRA. They hate the NRA, but they're following it anyway. And then there's a couple of people that are open-minded, like Alex, who are interested in getting the information out there. Notice there's a much lack. You won't get any other national coverage of the actual what's happening, which is a lot of insight on our community, what we want, what we demand, and what we're willing to accept, and what we're fed by. Look around, who's feeding you what, right? All right, next up is Sisters in Arms. Speaking of being fed wholesome and useful data, they have what is National Train a Teacher Day. And they had Clint Macro on from Meet the Pressers. And I haven't watched this one, but I'll watch it. I think it's like 20 minutes. Then we have Walk Talk America had a quick thing on. I forgot. I think they were streaming on LinkedIn. They were testing that stream because LinkedIn is kind of a pain in the butt to link to. I mean, it's not that physically hard. It's just that LinkedIn constantly changes their connections. So it's not the worst. There are some that are more difficult to keep connected to, but LinkedIn is like a constant effort or a constant, I'd say effort. Like you constantly have to be aware of if your LinkedIn connection is still connected. That's why we don't stream to LinkedIn. I've tried it in the past, but I don't bother. I'll stream to X, and I'm liking X more and more lately, but only because people are using it, and it's not as horrible as some of the other platforms. It's close. But anyway, these guys were practicing streaming to LinkedIn, and they were talking about, I guess they're getting ripped off. So Walk Talk America claims to be the intersection between guns, mental health, and the firearms industry and the medical community. And because of that, having that focus on that intersection, you could say, then they're constantly having ideas and talking about stuff, and they have been either invited or asked to offer insight to different projects or groups or events and things. And I guess a couple of times now, the people from Walk Talk America have either been invited or have commented on stuff that's happened, and then the organizations involved just kind of hork their stuff and essentially attempt to use it. But they were using an example of, I can't remember who now. It's about a 20-minute video. But can't remember the details of it. But somebody had tried to, or somebody had stolen one of their concepts and included it in their like handouts or printouts. But because they did all the Walk the Talk America stuff without citing Walk the Talk America and were supportive of red flag laws, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be essentially anti-gun, essentially, if they're going to support red flag laws. So these are people that listened to what Walk Talk America had said, but don't understand how red flag laws are a non-starter with gun people. And essentially Walk Talk America in this chat, the guys are talking about how when these people steal stuff from them, it's frustrating because then they'll wrap it up around their turd, wrap it up with a turd, I guess, and then it fails. And it's just frustrating to watch them not totally understand and then steal their concepts and kind of waste them or ruin them. So I guess welcome to the world, right? That's what's going to happen when you put stuff out to the free market, the free world, the free, free open conversation out there. People are bound to take stuff and run with it. Let's see. There's Gunmetal Guy. Welcome. Let's see. Wood's saying, train a teacher. We need to get the message out only to the teachers that want to. No one is saying all teachers can or even should. Right. And that's usually the message that we'll get, or you hear when there's a debate about it. You want all teachers to carry guns? No, usually not all teachers are required. Okay, so I didn't watch this one either, but Jake is saying something about there's some stigma around gun owning clinicians. Let's see. I was going to watch this one, but I didn't. But it looks like that one might be interesting. I don't know if anybody saw this one. But this is the Four Boxes Diner talking about some decision revealed information about the Second Amendment, probably new cases coming up. I was also going to listen to this one and I didn't, so I don't know what's going on there. That one's from the gun attorneys or whatever they're, the armed attorneys out of Texas. Let's see. Then we have She Fires on Sundays. We're getting into the gun talk section of the show. So She Fires hosts a live chat on Sundays. She was back on this Sunday. Sounds like she might be fluctuating a bit in her like amount of time she's going to spend on this stuff. So, they're human beings. Nobody's obligated to do these live chats. Remember, Gizzard did a chat for 4 hours every Sunday morning for a long time. He was able to. He enjoyed it. But, he didn't owe it to anybody to do that. Unless people are making a fortune, then I'm sure they're going to make time for it. But nobody we know is making a fortune doing this, if they're getting paid at all. So I value the people that are out there hosting shows and keeping community together. I don't know how long you've been around, whoever is listening to this, but if you've been around any length of time and there's something that happens, some kind of stressor, some kind of something that happens, and we just dealt with a big one a few years ago, but we've dealt with shortages in ammo, and we've dealt with abuses, and we've dealt with states, and we've just had our individual things, just our own problems and our own issues that come up over time, and having a community to be aware of and to interact with during those times is invaluable. It is more than priceless. It's pretty much what we need as humans. So this technology that is available to us. Allows us to find people that actually care about the exact things we do, very specifically. And the people that host and create the conversations and the communities around these topics are, again, like, invaluable. So I would say, again, don't take anything for granted. As often as you can get to a live show and interact, there's there's a human on the other side. So, I mean, unless it is an asshole on the other side, they're going to go, oh, look, there's another human being on the other side. This is, validation for me spending this time here. But then that human gives a shit about this, right? We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't give a shit about it. So that interacting with the mechanisms, the logarithms, and the whatever you want to call it, the systems that run YouTube, when you're in there commenting and thumbing it up and all those things, that is part of it. And that, again, you're not just letting that human being know that you're there, but you're leaving behind some positive effect on their channel for you being there. So all of that is of value. Doing it after the fact is nice, but again, having a bunch of prepared videos to go online and watch in a time of stress is not the same as going online and being at somebody's Friday night chat, being at somebody's Sunday afternoon chat, being at somebody's Saturday afternoon chat, when you know that they're going to be there. And if they're not, they'll be there next week, kind of thing. If they're not, they'll be back as soon as they can. And if they can't be back at that time, they'll be back in an alternative time. Knowing that kind of stuff is there is a lot different than, and a lot more valuable and a lot more useful than depending on people creating paid or produced videos. All right, so I'll quit harping on it. I want to thank She Fires and all the others who create those projects out there. So with that in mind, She Fire is pretty much the top of our list over here. Of all the people that create communities out there, new gun owners are pretty big, and old gun owners just sit around nitpicking at each other and whatever. Like most of us who have been around guns for any length of time, I guess it's possible that somebody's old to guns and new to YouTube, but most people have been around YouTube for a while. So we know who's out there, and we know if we want to watch a sports show, or if we want to watch a tactical show, or if we want to watch a sales show, or if we want to watch a night vision show, right? We know what the different shows are out there. So just having people who are chatting about general stuff to old and new, and sharing information, that stuff is fun to watch, and it's super useful. I guess what I'm saying is, if we have just the old-fashioned chats, everybody knows each other, the new people don't feel welcome, they don't interact, and they don't necessarily stick around. So we can't depend on, like this show. Like, I don't know how many new people show up to this show, very few. You're welcome to, but you're either scared or you're not here, right? Because they're not commenting. But on She Fire's show, they're encouraged and they feel welcome to interact. So those are just some of the reasons She Fires show is pretty good. Let's see. She Fires is a neat lady. It's been cool watching her go from a novice to getting way into it. 2017 or 16. I don't know what that means. But Woods is saying that it's been cool watching her get into it, for sure. I mean, I personally like watching people on YouTube. I mean, I used to like watching people on Instagram, but Instagram is just horrible now. It's just not possible. You used to be able to watch people get on Instagram, get their kind of bearings, and then just take off, and that was fun. YouTube doesn't ever happen anymore. So every once in a while somebody will grow. Chris is growing pretty fast, but most people just kind of slowly grow. So that part of it, I guess I don't pay attention to on YouTube. But when I see somebody like She Fires host a show, right? Like, think of all the people hosting shows. She Fires hosts a show where it's almost entirely chatting with the audience and then sharing and having discussions and stuff. It's not so much a presentation, and it's definitely not like shooting the shit or anything like that. It's anyway, I'll keep going. So up in Colorado, they've been dealing with a bunch of garbage, and it looks like it has bothered some of them. I don't know why. They have the third largest organization in the country that brings in the third to the most money from gun owners is in Colorado. So you would think they wouldn't have to worry about nothing since they have such a large portion of the firearms industry's money going to Colorado specifically to fight Second Amendment issues. And that organization takes credit every time something happens positively in Colorado. But here's people trying to raise money anyway. So for other organizations that have nothing to do with that one, it's almost as if that organization doesn't do shit in Colorado. But that's here nor there. So Melissa on the right and Eva, I think, on the right, Ava on the right, left, I mean, are Dragon Man's daughters, and they're working together to support an organization called Balancing the Rockies. And it's Ava's, well, she's affiliated with it. I can't remember if she started it or she's just affiliated with it after it was started, but she's definitely interested in it. And it is strategically looking at the counties in Colorado that are, I don't want to say at risk, but able to be moved. And there's a couple of counties where Democrats just barely have a hold, and there's a couple of counties where Republicans barely got in. And the goal of Balancing the Rockies is to support those counties where the gun-supporting politicians or representatives would get support from this organization as opposed to the ones who are anti. So it's another way of supporting or creating an environment that's positive and not negative. And this is a attempt by the girls to do a fundraiser. So there's all kinds of prizes, including a bunch of guns and stuff. So they definitely know what they're doing when they're organizing a giveaway of epic proportions. And there's a lot of stuff. So you might want to check out that video. It's essentially a fundraising drive for this nonprofit in Colorado to affect the elections, or to influence the elections to balance the distribution of parties so that they don't have the abuse that they had this year. I don't know. There's other states. Does other states have these? Do other states have these type of projects or concepts? I don't know if every state has the right, if every state is the same. I'm not much of a, I don't know what that would be. It's like someone who's into civics or politics enough. I don't know if like all the states have the same number of counties, or if like it only works in certain states or something, but it seems pretty novel. I haven't seen anybody else attempt to do this, especially with a gun giveaway. So pretty cool. Let's see. So then Matt and I were on with Yankee on Shooting Left to Center. We chatted about different things. Yankee does that every other week, I think. Kind of every other week. Check that one out if you like Yankee and Matt. Let's see. Then we got Tony does a show with a bunch of people on Tuesdays called the Gun and Gear Review Podcast. They've been doing this one for a long time. They sit around talking about guns and gear at the same time as Ghost. So I usually run both shows at the same time. And there's just two shows talking about guns and gear. So I'm usually listening to both. Let's see. Then we got Night Strike started doing shows. Figured I'd link to that. Seems like he's been doing a bunch of them. So maybe he's back on the YouTube again. I think he's been doing them on Rumble. I didn't watch this one, but this is like a 45-minute video from the NRA show from Meet the Pressers. And I haven't seen too much from NRA other than like close in on a gun or something. So I'm assuming with the 45-minute show and the way that these guys edit and film, this one might give you the best panoramic or view of how big the Texas show, the NRA show, really was. Let's see. Then we got Forge of Freedom, How to Change the World. I'm trying to remember if I listened to this one or not. I know I had this one in my list, and I may have listened to this one earlier today, and I might just be flaking on it. But yeah, I'm not sure if I listened to that one. I planned on listening to that one today. Then we got the Mouse Party. Foss hosts the Mouse Party every Wednesday, late night, overnight, however you want to think about it. Non-scripted get-together. So if you want to be part of it, head over to Foss's Discord channel. I put this in here because I don't think I have any videos about it, but the Gun Curious book came out this week. Got our copy of it. We got the first video up on the Amazon, first reviews of it up on Amazon. And I haven't read it or nothing yet, but it's 8 chapters and looks like it's well made. It's put together in North Carolina, written in North Carolina, put together in North Carolina, published in the USA. So it's pretty cool. I guess YouTube or Amazon is already out of their first shipment. So I don't think they're out of books, but Amazon is out of what they had. So if you're interested in getting one, I think they'll be available again soon, if not already. There's a couple of radio shows that happen each week. I think it was not available to listen to the Sunday episode of Gun Owners Radio. If Mr. Knives was here, I would have asked him if I was there or not, because I think I might have been there. Sometimes lately I've been listening to the Gun Owners Radio show really loud on the computer, and then I'm like doing things inside and outside the house, so I just have it on like the radio. But I can't remember if I listened to it last Sunday or not. But I didn't put it in here for sure, so I might not have listened to it if it wasn't in my list. I did get to check out Toby's show, though. That happens way earlier on Sunday. He does a show on the radio station in Massachusetts on Sundays for just an hour. And must be on in the morning for him because it's on pretty early here. And, it's just a shorter version of his Wednesday show, essentially. And then he was on Tuesday with the Grace Curley show. And he wasn't on Wednesday. He went to some kind of event. But I think he did go on Thursday. And did a show. I just didn't see it. Well, let's see. Woods is asking if I'm going to read the Professor Imane's book. Yeah, I'll read it as soon as I have a chance to do it. I might do it like I did. I kind of started doing the other book like an hour a night as I was falling asleep. So it'll be a shitty version where I do an hour and I'm all tired. But that's probably the most realistic way of doing it, at least for my schedule right now. Although, thanks to our Patreons, I'll probably tell our Patreons privately, but there's a private Patreon alert going out, speaking of finances, and I want to thank our Patreons again. I really wouldn't have been here. Like, I would have lost my house. Earlier last year, I was at risk of the house being taken. So I really, really, really want to thank the Patreons for not just keeping everything online, but keeping everything online when I had to start sacrificing big time. So none of the servers and stuff, if any of those bills would have come due at that point, I would have had to really think about whether or not everything could keep going. So I really do appreciate the patrons out there. But we're changing that, turning the corner on that. And yeah, there's nothing guaranteed, right? We can do what we can do as individuals. I appreciate the people that help us do what we're doing. But don't take it for granted. You can take it for granted for some amount of time, but then you're going to be sitting there going, it didn't last forever, did it? So we're going to jump over to guncalendars.com, one of the websites that we've got out there, and you'll notice there's no ads on it at all. It's just literally a calendar with a bunch of lists and things, depending on what you might be curious about. I have a bunch of different calendar type events listed on here. The only thing close to an advertisement, I guess, would be, for our own stuff, Minuteman University and the Every Second Matters concept. But then we have a link to the Second Amendment Foundation and AZCDL and JPFO and GOA, but no paid no paid links or nothing. They're just straight raw links. There's no, I don't get nothing for those links. We're just trying to offer information over here. So again, that's thanks to our Patreons who just pay for the servers, and there's a little bit of software here. But let's dig into it. Now, this show goes live on Fridays, and this goes on a podcast, usually with like a 2-week shift. And again, I won't get into it, but I don't have ultimate time to work on this stuff. So that 2-week shift gives me a chance to kind of do everything in batches. So even though we're looking at, this weekend being the anniversary of the first National Shooting Conference on Shooting Sports, which is essentially the first SHOT Show, not really. It was really the first thing that brought NSSF into a concept, and then NSSF happened, and then in 1980 or something, the first SHOT Show happened. But the first beginnings of NSSF happened tomorrow. for people that are listening in the future on June 8th. This weekend is also actually already started today, the 7th of June, but this weekend is Blade Show. So there's 3 Blade shows each year. There's Blade Show Texas, and there's Blade Show West. So this one is Blade Show. It's in Georgia, Atlanta. And then there's Blade Show Texas. I don't remember. I think it's in Houston, but I don't remember. And then there's Blade Show West, which is I think it's in Utah now, Salt Lake City. So the blade shows are kind of like a trade show for an industry show for the blades, for knives. So I'm sure Gizzard would like to go to it. Maybe Mr. Knives would go to it. Would you go to Blade Show? It's a 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I've been told it's not huge because of all the blade companies in the world, there's not that many of them. And if you gave them all a booth, it wouldn't really fill a huge auditorium or nothing. I think they said it's as big as like a big giant gymnasium. But I haven't been yet. I would like to go, but it's the time of year when it's not pleasant to drive. So they do it in the fall. I think Blade Show West is in the fall. I wouldn't mind going to that one. But anyway, that's Blade Show is this weekend. We have the anniversary of Julianne Snell, which is Alan Gottlieb's wife. She was born this coming Sunday. It's her birthday. We've got New Hampshire ending a prohibition on hunting with suppressors. We have the anniversary of the passing of John Wayne. Yeah, he died when he was 72 this coming week on the 11th. The National Defense Act was signed back in 1916 on the 13th of June. There's next weekend, a week from today, is the Army's birthday. June 14th, 1775. Army's older than everybody. Then we've got the anniversary of Tokroff being born and Flag Day. Does this sound like there's an echo if I do this? It'll also be the weekend of the Great Lakes Cartridge Show, a really cool gun show for just ammo collectors, which I'd definitely like to attend one day. I think this is a cool new effect I'm going to start doing on the calendar portion of the show. Then we got Father's Day coming up next Sunday, not tomorrow or whatever, but the 16th, followed by Outdoor Retailer, which is a lot like SHOT Show for sporting goods stores. We've got Juneteenth coming up on the 19th, which is the same day as the 1903 Springfield being adopted back in 1903, hence the name M1903. The Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act happened in 1968 on June 19th. Neil Knox was born on June 20th, so his birthday is coming up. And of course, he passed back in 2005, but he is the responsible for the October revolt, or the 1977 revolt at the NRA, and stopping the NRA from resorting to being a hunting organization and kind of help create the ILA. We have a couple other anniversaries. I won't get into all of them because we're now a couple of weeks out. But go check out guncalendars.com if you want to see those kind of things that are current, things that are happening like on the horizon, but also as much history as I can find. I've done quite a few different projects over the years, and the Gun Calendars is one of the, what do you call that? Like one of the ways that we share that data. So if I did the firearms inventors cards, well, all the firearms inventors birthdays and passings and different things are in there. Their guns are in there. Then we did a different deck of cards, or we did something else, some other project, and all of those dates got put in there. And then years later, something happened, someday on gun channels, they're talking about Mr. Knives chat or something. Somebody was in a chat one day and it was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go throw that to the calendar. So the calendar was invented, I think, in 2011. And ever since 2011, I've just been adding things to the calendar. So tons of interesting things over there. Some of them super useful, like rallies and legislative days and things that are important, but also just stuff that we don't forget and things that are hopefully just interesting and useful. Okay, we'll keep digging through. Let's see. So next is I posted some stuff about the Navy. I don't know how many people are paying attention to what's going on with the Navy SEALs right now. Definitely some crazy stuff going on. We'll get into that real quick here because now we're going to talk about the military interview shows. So if you want to know what I'm alluding to, just listen to this interview with Eric Deming, who is a SEAL, and he has a conversation with the Team House. If you're familiar with any of the current name kind of name household name SEALs that are out there, this is going to be very interesting data. So we'll see how that turns out, and we'll see how much of that hits the prime time, but we'll keep going. One of the shows I started listening to is called, well, I guess it's Ironclad is the name of the channel, I think, and then Borderland is one of the shows. They have like 3 shows. I listen to 2 of them. The one of them I don't listen to. But this one is super interesting. This guy on Borderland pretty much talks about border issues, which, being 100 miles from the international border with Mexico, I've been paying more and more attention to as it's degenerated or whatever. There's always been an issue with the border, but it's become different in the last years, number of years. Hasn't been anywhere near as bad as it was when I first moved out here. And then it got overhyped for a while because it really wasn't still that bad. And then it got insane. And right now it's a whole nother level. So this one was interesting because I don't know if people pay attention, but when you're in an all-volunteer army, there's a lot of people that volunteer for a lot of reasons. Most of the people I served with volunteered for school so that they could get money for school. Some of us were volunteering for just because our families did, or patriotism or that kind of stuff. But in a Cold War, there wasn't much of that. Now there's definitely more of that, people enlisting for patriotism, but there's always, and there's still, and there will be going forward, people that enlist for citizenship. So that can mean more than just some kind of, well, there's never a handout. If you're enlisting, you're giving your life over to the country. You don't have any of the rights and stuff, and they just wail on you. So, you're not guaranteed to come out of your service time in one piece. Everyone knows that. So there's no free nothing here. This isn't a free handout at all. But essentially, a lot of people who are either their parents or they were born in another place and came over here as a little kid, first generation, or second generation, I guess, people who are parents, still speak some other language type of stuff. They have a lot of patriotism. My family wasn't here since the fucking, whatever they call that thing, the Mayflower. My family on both sides got here and immediately enlisted because they were happy to be here and they felt it was part of the thing, especially when World War II was happening, right? So everybody I know, well, I should say everybody in my family and everybody's family that I knew from that time, at least growing up and stuff, I don't know what you want to call people that came from another country. They're all immigrants. So those people who enlisted, their children at least, would enlist due to patriotism or due to the being thankful for being in the country. And that still happens 1,000%. Now, there's different phases, what's the word? Like there's different ways of being in the country. And one of them is visas, and I don't even know them all, but let's just say, different kinds of visas or something. And as evidently when people volunteer in an all volunteer service, you can volunteer and not be naturalized yet. So anyway, that's one of the perks of service is naturalization. So this is a show where they talk about the phenomenon when, because naturalization of enlisted is kind of rare, it's got to be super rare actually. I mean, compared to all the other things like having a sore tooth or having a broken leg or something, like it's a characteristic of a soldier, but it's not, most soldiers are citizens. So anyway, they are aware of citizenship class or whatever that's called. But they don't care about it. Once you're enlisted, you're enlisted, and they don't care. So what happens is naturalization gets put down on the list of priorities, and it doesn't happen all the time. And I guess people can go through their entire military career and come out and still not ever get naturalized. And if the military doesn't do it, then they're back to the normal system, and they don't get necessarily a cut in line because they were due it in the military. And I don't know if you can imagine going to the post office or any kind of government thing if you haven't been in the military. But just because the government is supposed to do something doesn't mean they tell you they're supposed to do it. And they certainly don't tell you when you're supposed to do something to trigger the thing to happen or whatever. So if you're told, yeah, you can get naturalized when you go into the service, and if they don't say, go over there and get naturalized tomorrow, you're not told to do it. You may not realize that it's on you to make it happen. So that's what happens. People go through, they come out, and I'm going to say inadvertently, because I don't think anybody's trying to screw them over. It's just that it doesn't come up and they don't know to ask. So they get out without being naturalized, and then they're back where they started. So anyway, it's a bullshit thing to do, and a lot of people are just going to blow that off. But again, it's a giant factor that we have, and it's not something that necessarily should be blown off. But then here's the problem: even if you are inclined to blow it off, you're a dumbass, because what happens is when they find someone is not a citizen, and it doesn't matter their service record, they're going to deport them. So somebody who's lived in this country at some amount of time and then lived somewhere else doing service probably for a long time, and then gets out and then gets kicked out of the country. Now they're living in some other country that they may not have ever lived in before because of a technical legal thing here. And now what are they supposed to do? So now they live in a different country. They can't really come back. They're only used to being here, and the cartels are preying on them because now they have knowledge and skills, and the cartels want that stuff. And they don't have to, they don't have to be willing to give it to the cartels. The cartels can use families and influence to get that information. They'll just take these people, they kidnap them and stuff. So it's a weird facet of our system when we have so many people involved in so many different situations and stuff, and a system that tries to deal with everything but can only deal with so many things. So pretty interesting. I had no idea about this whole aspect of it, but unfortunately it sounds like we're ignoring this or not paying attention to it at our own peril, because again, the cartels are not scrupulous, and they're going to take whatever resources are available to them. All right, changing gears to a equally interesting but totally different way, in a totally different way, a conversation with a colonel. Well, he's a colonel now, but he was a captain or something in Vietnam, and an interesting dude who had a crazy, interesting career and did a bunch of different things, doing jobs in the military that most people don't probably think about. But when you're an officer and in the Cold War, I guess, there were a lot of levels of bureaucracy, I guess is the way to say it, like that no one would know, right? How would you ever know? So this guy talks about a bunch of like his path or his adventures through there. And he's a good conversationalist or whatever. Great. Sometimes you hear the guys from Vietnam and they're not so great at getting the stories out. This guy doesn't have a ton of stories, but he does have some, and lots and lots of interesting kind of careers or job roles, I guess, hats that he's worn throughout the military or the Army throughout the time. Really good interview, and it's 2 hours or something. Little puppy hurt his leg this week, so thanks to everybody who sent wishes to the puppy. His leg is okay now. I think he was just milking it for a while. Let's see. We had an Every Second Matters. We're getting into the stuff that we do this week. We're doing pretty good. We're just running a little bit over an hour now. So we had Every Second Matters this month. I decided to host a show. I was kind of thinking I'd invite the people from Thunder on the Prairie, but I think it was like as they were all driving home or something. So I just went live for a little bit, kind of chatted about the olden days and some of the memories of things that we've done on Every Second Matters over the years, maybe. I think something like that. On Tuesday, we do workshops, and this week it was documenting your journey. A lot of people take for granted their own projects, their own efforts, and every once in a while I'm going to ask you to don't take your shit for granted. Don't take yourself for granted. Intentionally put some effort into documenting and archiving what you've done and your adventures, and start wherever you want with, if you listen to some of these military interview shows, they like to start with an origin story. You know, where'd you grow up? How did you grow up? What gave you the interest in what you eventually have done with yourself? So start wherever you want, you know, start yesterday or start back at the beginning, and document what you're doing and why and how and what got you going, and your, you know, the good stuff and the bad stuff for lots of reasons. And that's kind of what I went into for an hour there. But that's what we did on Tuesday. If you have ideas for future workshops, let me know. Future to a creator coaching, let me know. Then I think the last thing we'll chat about today is Ask Gun Questions. On Saturday, me and Tony get together and chat about, well, we answer gun questions, kind of. We sometimes answer gun questions. Not that many questions come in, so we end up chatting a little bit. But yeah, Tony had just got back from Train and Learn, which is, I think, one of the better, if not the best, training event that happens for activists and people in the community, creators and instructors and even manufacturers, because it's so inclusive. It combines so many aspects. Like, you know, you're going to, as a manufacturer, you're going to be involved with influencers or creators, I guess. I don't like influencers, creators, but also, you know, people in marketing and people in photography and, you know, what did I say? Firearms trainers. So firearms trainers. Now, if you're a firearms trainer, you're going to meet with manufacturers. And you're going to meet with those, you know, marketing people. So everybody's going to get a chance to teach and, you know, to offer, and then everybody gets a chance to learn from. And they do that over and over. It's like 5th year now, and I really dig it. I think that's a cool thing. So Tony chatted about what happened at that event. All right, with that, there's DJ out there saying, hey, welcome. We'll start wrapping it up. So thanks everybody for joining us live. Do appreciate it. We had a good week. A lot of stuff going on. Fairly positive. There's definitely folks out there that see us as an easy segment of the community or the country to abuse, but we're slowly and I'd say deliberately, to some extent, it's not accidental. You know, it's not like everybody's on board, but we are eventually, and we are slowly becoming, you know, more and more of a hard target for the other side. So while they're not completely gone, they are fracturing, and they do not have strong offenses at all. As soon as we get used to getting some black eyes and get a little bit stronger, there'll be no match. And now our next challenge will be how to be good winners, right? Like, because we're not always good winners. Speaking of good winners, there's Gizzard. Welcome. So we got here just for the end. Thanks everybody again for joining us. Episode 1770. Go check out any other show that you watch and see how many episodes they're up to. We've been doing this since 2016, almost every day. Well, for a long time, it was daily. And if we're not in somebody else's show, we're online pretty much every day. So thanks everybody for making that possible. It's certainly not a given. I'm not independently wealthy doing this because I got nothing else to do. I really do believe that with the internet and with so many people that I've met who are able and interested, we can affect a future where this debate is over, where we've eliminated the misunderstandings and the ignorance. I don't mean to say people are ignorant, but they're not aware of just some basic things. And once we're able to use the technology and the combined experiences and efforts and skills of everybody involved who's actually interested in ending the debates, ending the confusions, we'll do that. And that'll lead the way to ending a lot of confusions out there. So I really do appreciate the people that help us with that overall goal. And See Ozzy jumping in at the last minute here. Naive. I like it. We'll end on that. So I'm going to throw a quick couple of commercials out here before we end, and we'll see you tomorrow for Ask Gun Questions. Also, Brooke will be doing her Suicide Prevention Saturday. Like I say, if you're only going to help promote one thing out there each week, it should be Brooke's show.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
This is Earl Benson, reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory, Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.
Sir, why are you in Barry's fishing net?
He ran right into it.
Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty apes! First off, that is incredibly rude. You ran straight into Barry's fishing net. It's ruined. How is Barry gonna fish now?
I'm just trying to find some patches and some stickers.
Well, all you have to do is go to gearwebsites.com and you can find 2A-related stickers and patches. And even if you need web consulting, technology consulting, 3D printing, anything like that, gearwebsites.com. Now, please get out of the net.
I'm sorry.
Jerk.